What's up, everybody? It's Brandon Trax Hyatt coming to you with a brand new edition of Chicago Sports Podcast, Monsters of Madhouse. Right now, we're just going to get into a little bit of Justin Fields. You know, he just left the building. It's been a little over a day now, and tempers are flaring. Guys are, a little bummed out. They're a little down and out about the situation. They have a little, trust some trust issues right now. I know they'll be okay. I know they'll rebound. I know they'll be back on the block. But right now, we're going to get through it. We're going to power through it. And if we came on only when we felt right and the news and everything felt good, we might not be on much at all as Chicago sports fans. So, we got to get through this, Brandon. How you doing tonight, Brandon?
I'm feeling good, Brandon. How about you?
Good, man.
I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, no problem, man. I like the new look you got back there. So, yeah, let's get into it. So a little bit more news came forward, and there was a report. I believe it was Ian Rappaport said that there was 4 other teams that were in the mix that were talking to Ryan Poles about Justin Fields, which is interesting because there were reports that there were no reports and that there was no shopping. So that's why there was no interest. And that actually came from some big time names out there that tried to tell us that. Then after he gets traded off, we find out what the real biz is. So it's like, who's on first, you know what I mean? It doesn't make sense until it makes sense until you find out what the real story is. So I mean, what happens is you never know until you know. So but at the end of the day, after all those looks, he did his due diligence, and there were reports from alumni and potential, former players that were not really happy with the exit. They had some really bad vibes of situations, experiences with the Bears, and I feel like Ryan Poles is starting to change that and make it more of a palatable, interesting, exciting place for players to land. And I mean, you look at it, Robert Quinn, he went to I believe it was the Eagles. You look at our former middle linebacker, he went to Baltimore Ravens, so that was good. Raquan, and now, last but not least, Fields. Well, prior to that, you had our wide receiver. He went over to Miami, and Miami was winning ball games. So that whole thing with him just working with them, seeing a good landing spot, potential chances for success and winning instead of just dropping you off and making you fend for yourself. I think, for me, it changes the narrative and makes it a more interesting place, for people to come here. I mean, what are your thoughts on that, Brandon? You think there's any truth to that?
Yeah, I think, like there was a lot of conflicting reports, and Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus, if not anything, the one thing they've always been pretty consistent in is keeping everything in house. So it's tough to read anything regarding this franchise and believe it until you, like you said, until you know for sure.
Right.
But yeah, it seems to me as if Poles. I mean, I don't think any other organization would have done for Fields what Poles did. I can't even say that honestly was a good thing, but he seemed like he looked after his player first and
Yeah.
the organization second. So I mean, it seems like from what I understand is most players who've played for Ryan Poles and enjoy playing for him, and seems like he does try to do what's best for the person who's even exiting his team, which is not very common.
Yeah, man, I like that. And some people are like, you got to do right by your team first, because that person has left the building. And I say that person not as disrespect, but they are no longer a Chicago Bear, right? So as you can see earlier, I didn't even say our, Raquan. I said the linebacker because
Yeah,
that's just it is what it is, man. If you're in the building, we know your name. If you're gone, it is what it is. So We love Justin. He did great for us. He was in a terrible situation, but listen, make no mistake about it. These are grown men. They're professionals. They know that if you're going to get drafted in the top 10, you're going to the top 10 worst teams in the NFL. And those teams are not ready to win. And it's going to be a long time before you get that team together. So they are in rebuild mode most of the time. You don't have a good winning recipe. However, the incumbent quarterback this year, whoever that may be, right now they're saying it's Caleb, and rightfully so, only because that they're calling him a generational talent, and it is a home run if you choose this guy. That is what they're saying. So if you are the Ryan Poles, if you are the GM of the Chicago Bears, it is self-preservation upon yourself to go ahead and go out and get this guy. You would not go get Daniels. Daniels seems like a poor version of Justin Fields. Justin Fields is already accomplished with 3 years. He's battle tested. He's been there. You know he's a good teammate. You know his athleticism. You know what he does for the community. You know all of the boxes that he checks. You know nothing about Daniels except that he's a good college baller. You know what I mean? And that he's got bird legs and he potentially could get cracked really hard in the NFL. There is, make no mistake about it. I promise you, there were times when Justin got hit and a guy that stature would just crumble. Not saying that I hope he does. I hope the kid does well. If he comes to the Bears, I'll be here with open arms, and I'm sure you will too. But my point is, why move on from Justin if you already have a more polished Justin in the building, and go out and get Daniels, who still has, he might even need more years to get caught up to Justin. So I don't even really want to go there, but I mean, the fact remains is you've got a couple other kids out there. You got the Drake May, you got JJ, you got Bo Nix. There's more than just two cats in the game. So you've even got what do you call it, out of Washington. Now I like him. I like him, but the whole problem with that kid is that he's got what, 2 ACLs and 2 shoulder injuries. That's not good for us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think in my personal, honestly, I think if Caleb Williams wasn't in this draft, I don't know that Poles would have moved on from Fields. I think,
Yeah,
I think
I like
Caleb
that.
was, I think he is the factor. I really do. I think, and I'm pretty sure Ryan Poles has a good track record in terms of scouting quarterbacks. He was a part of the process that brought Patrick Mahomes to the Chiefs. And I've heard a lot of, there's been a little slander out there for Ryan Poles lying or, just not staying true to his word and not doing what's right by his quarterback. But at the end of the day, I firmly believe Ryan Poles is going to do what's best for the Chicago Bears. So if he felt moving on from Fields and drafting a quarterback, whomever it may be, is what's best for that team moving forward, then I support it. And everybody else should. And I know Fields was beloved by many, but in the end of the day, you pay the player, not the person. You know what I mean? And this is another misfortune for Fields is his 5th-year option came at a time when a draft where you're just loaded with quarterbacks. You got
Loaded.
five potential first-round picks in this draft that are going to be quarterbacks and 2 Heisman winners, not to mention 2. This isn't a 22 draft with Pickett and Howell and Corral and I think the best quarterback in that draft ended up being Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy. Look at the rest of them; they've kind of fizzled out. So I mean, it's a stacked class. Justin Fields, I know, like I said, a lot of people love him. Last year, though, was kind of a reflection of him as a player in its entirety. He played his
Yeah.
worst football in the bottom 4 minutes of the fourth quarter. He had a 22 passer rating, and it kind of reflected his entire season in general. I think he played his worst football through December. Over the last 6 weeks of the season, he threw 4 touchdowns, and you're in a really tough division, and it's going to take playing your best football in December to win that division. So like I said, I think Poles has a plan, clearly has a plan, and I think he's going to do whatever he thinks is best for the team moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely got to seal the deal. You got to be clutch. If you ain't clutch, you ain't much. And at that point in time, the NFL is basically performance league. Everything is goes off of performance. How you doing? If you're not doing, it's how you doing. Keep it moving. And unfortunately, it like you said, it just hit at the wrong time. And like you said, if this was a draft class from last year. Fast forward to this year, um, that same draft class, I do believe that we would do what we did last year and start Fields. And honestly, if there was one more year available without this draft class, Fields might actually get over the hump. I mean, you look at the team that Ryan Poles has put together for the incumbent QB, it is just crazy. The number one overall pick traditionally goes to a terrible team. Bryce Young's Panthers, Trevor Lawrence's Jaguars, but Caleb Williams or whoever it is that is under center that the Bears elect or select to draft walks into a much greater situation. Two number one wide receivers in Allen and Moore, a top 10 tight end in Cole Kmet, a solid offensive line with interior offensive line upgrades, a ready-made top 5 defense, and an extra first-round pick. I mean, this is an exciting time to be in, and the ingredients are here. And for once, Chicago has what they need to develop a quarterback in the fact that they also went out and got some quarterback whisperers, some guys that have turned it around for some troubled QBs and can speak that love language that will potentially help them out. And I think this is really good. I think this is a bright future for Chicago. I think we were in a win-win situation. I think that we need to chill out with our temper, and really just know that this potentially could have went either way. It didn't go the way that a lot of us had planned, but it did go the way that Fields or Poles had planned. So, and on a side note, Poles actually talked to Fields and worked with him, and it took a little while to get dialed in. But at the end of the day, Pittsburgh is where he wanted to go. And I think he's going to do really good there. I was talking to Jim Miller this morning, who will be on our show next Saturday, quarterback Jim Miller. And he said that Arthur over there in Pittsburgh, who was the former head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, he has worked with a couple QBs that were having trouble. Ryan Tannehill, Marcus Mariota turned their careers around and worked hard with them. So he's in a good situation. Also, he's there with Mike Tomlin. He's in a good, that team wins. They've had like 3 quarterbacks in like 60 years or something. They are known for winning, bro. They have like a top 10 defense every year. They've got great receivers, great coaches, great owners. It's just a wonderful blue collar place to play football, man. And you know what? Looking at him, he looks good in yellow and black, And if that's where he wanted to go, I'm happy for him. But fast forward, he's no longer in the building. We know it's going to take some people some time to get over it, but guys are dropping lows right now. They're dropping locations saying, where do you want to meet at? Let's not do that. We're still Bears fans. It's still 31 other teams against us. And at the end of the day, it's just football. There are seriously way more important things in life than this. And, we need to stay united together. And at the end of the day, this is a short hiccup and it's not going to take long. I will tell you what Jalen Johnson said. He said it's going to take a little bit of time to win over that locker room because that locker room was Justin's. Justin was the guy that they rallied around. Justin was the leader. They loved him. So what he said was, you look at the early mini camps, the training camps. Then you look at the preseason. Then you go into a game. You lead them down the field. and you win. And that is going to be the start of gaining, their trust and respect in that locker room. It's not going to come easy, and it never does. It never comes easy for any rookie. So there's nothing new here. You know what I'm saying, Brandon?
Yeah, and I think in regards to what you said, and Justin ended up in Pittsburgh, lets me know
Yeah.
that Fields was never in the dark. I don't think for 1 minute
No.
about what was going on. I think Poles
No.
was probably in pretty consistent talks with them. And I
Yeah.
also feel like you said, any player should feel lucky to go play for Mike Tomlin. That is something that the Bears don't have.
Huge.
They don't have
It's
a
huge.
likely future Hall of Famer head coach. And another
Yeah.
thing, Fields is finally going to get an opportunity to do something he didn't get the chance to do in Chicago. He was kind of thrown into the fire. I didn't think
Yes.
Fields was necessarily ready to start. I thought he should have been given more time to learn. And now he's gonna have the ability to go sit behind another future Hall of Famer on the bench, and get the X's and O's a little, learn a little more of that before he's tossed back in there. And a lot of people are upset with Poles. A lot of people love Justin Fields, and I think if you really do like Justin Fields, you should be happy for it. He's probably in the best position he could be in. I firmly believe that. And in regards to what you're saying about, the team that Ryan Poles has put together, the Bears are in a very unique position with a 7-win record and drafting a quarterback. But and Caleb Williams wants to go first overall. That's obvious. But the Bears also have to, Caleb's going to have to pitch himself to the Bears to prove that he's their guy. But the Bears also have to pitch themselves. I mean, Caleb Williams it's pretty unprecedented, the leverage that this guy's had. I mean, he's going to have to. The one thing I heard him say a lot now is, I just need to know that you want to win. So I
Yeah.
firmly believe in the meeting with the Bears, they had to pitch to him, we care, we want to win. And signing a guy like Keenan Allen before you meet with Caleb at the end of March after his pro day is just another tool to say, hey, we're going to give you the best football team we possibly can. And we already won 7 games last year. So it seems like it's going to play out a win-win for everybody. Fields is in a better situation, if you ask me. Caleb's coming in. If they do select Caleb, he's coming into a good team. And Poles is, once again, like I said, doing what's best for the Bears.
Yeah, and I think out of all those teams too, piggybacking off of what you were saying as far as Justin goes, all those other teams, the 4 other teams that were interested in him, they were not automatic starting positions where he would be on the bench. But when you look at the whole, scope and what it would entail, he fast tracked him as quickly as possible, looking through those teams, vetting them as best as possible, because anything can change. You're not going to give somebody all your 11 herbs and spices just because you're trying to land somebody in their building. But for the most part, I feel like you got a pretty good pulse, and you send him over there, and like you said earlier, you let him sit behind a Super Bowl winning quarterback, a quarterback that is proven. He has struggled in recent times, but still proven. And he gets to see Sierra every day. That's not really a bad thing, No. So, but yeah, I'm happy for the kid, man. I wish him well. I'm not really going to look at his stats and see what he's doing, maybe from time to time, but it's not going to be close. You're not going to get stat updates from Justin Fields on Chicago Sports Podcast because we are covering Chicago sports. And I do think that I looked at the schedule and I saw that the Steelers weren't on our, schedule. So maybe Poles did a little something there too, where he's like, it's too soon, let's wait a little bit before we do that, But I like the fact that when he does make mistakes, he quickly rebounds from them and he corrects them. And I do feel like he realized that he did make some of the mistakes on the way of figuring this whole, Fields thing out, and then also trying to weigh in who he's going to bring in. And partly because of that is all the noise with Caleb and him not wanting to hop on the bus right away, right after, the combine. He just said, no, I'm going to wait till my pro day on the 20th. And then we'll talk later about coming out. So I guess the 21st or whatever, he'll be in Chicago. And I would hope to hear something soon at that point in what direction we're going to go. I don't think it'll be that big of an issue to like let that strategy, if you're solid on it, it doesn't change anything. It corrects the league for whatever they're going to do. But I mean, if you're going to go number one overall, it doesn't change nothing for you except just, Poppy Peak. Hey, I'm number one. I'm getting Caleb. We're moving forward. If he just goes quiet and doesn't say anything at all, then maybe he's working behind the scenes trying to get that trade, to move back, because we will talk about we've got Jim Miller coming on Saturday. We've got Eric Kramer coming on some point this week. So we've got two, bona fide Chicago Bear starting QBs who have been in the building before and have still talk, daily on sports radio about modern day football. And they talk about the Bears, and they know and are still connected. And we like to talk to them and pick their brain because they actually played football at the quarterback level, at the highest level. So I'm excited to hear what they have to say about all of this going forward, what it means, and who actually they would pick now, because it was interesting when I did a remote at the old Mongo, the Mongo's sports bar. I was with Jim, and he told me for the first time, and we were playing Detroit, and he told me that we should not only get Caleb, but keep Justin and let them compete. And he showed me 2 times in history, and I can't remember when those were. And I think the teams were Green Bay and maybe the Jets. I can't remember. He'll tell you. His mind is sharper than a tack, Brandon. He'll be able to recite it, everything. I mean, it's like a walking Encyclopedia Britannica. Or if anybody is not as old as me, a Google. So he's like a walking Google. So, but he said where it worked. But I'm here to tell him, and I can't wait to get him on our screen, because I'm here to tell him that we've been in podcast purgatory for like a month or 2 months, and it would not work. There's no way in hell that would have worked in the city of Chicago. I mean, it would be a nightmare, Brandon,
Yeah, and I don't know how much it necessarily matters, but I mean, Caleb is a pretty confident guy, and I know he thinks that he's the answer for whatever team drafts him. And I know he wants to play, so I don't know what kind of message you'd be sending to Caleb Williams if Justin Fields was still on the roster when he was drafted. But again, Poles can do whatever. I mean, he's in charge. He can do whatever he wants to do.
Yeah.
But I don't. Justin feels like, if there was I don't mind the whole bridge quarterback idea, but I don't see Justin Fields as a teacher. I don't know that he would have, helped Caleb Williams improve in any way, shape, or form by Caleb just sitting behind him. So I didn't like the idea. I think there's a lot of people that start towards the end when Justin Fields was still here after, the combine. We were all kind of surprised. There was a lot of people suggesting that maybe that's the way the Bears were going to go. I never really felt that way. I think Ryan Poles has had a plan for quite some time. I do believe that he's also known that Caleb Williams is going to be a Chicago Bear in the future. I don't think that a lot of people were talking about how the meeting being postponed with Caleb is going to affect what he does with Justin Fields. I don't believe that either. I think the only thing that these guys are really concerned about when it comes to Caleb in that meeting on the 21st is just the medicals. That's the one thing they want to see.
Yeah, that's the main thing. Check out the medicals, check all the boxes. I'm here to tell you, I watched every single game, almost every single game. Okay. And I will tell you this much. The guy never got injured. He never got injured. I never see him limp off the field, go into the tent, and be gone a considerable amount. He's always, the day one he took over Spencer Rattler's spot, and he freaking rallied back, and he put I was 60 or 70 points or something against Texas, and he just smoked that freaking team. And it was ridiculous because they were trailing. They were in a hole by 20 or something, and he comes in and he just lights it up, man. It was just crazy, and it was so cool. Hey, but I didn't know what to do. I was totally taken because I was more of a Spencer dude. I seen him on Netflix, I saw his family and stuff, and I'm following that. I'm like all excited, and I'm like, all right, I'm on the Spencer train. Let's check it out. Team Rattler, here we go. And here comes this kid I never heard about, just freaking lighting it up. And basically from there, at that point forward, Lincoln's like, this is your team to lose. And it was just crazy, man. The rest is history. But yeah, man, good, great talent, crazy. I mean, the throws that he makes is just ridiculous. And you cannot, kind of reminds me of Patrick Mahomes, because nobody could tell me that those arm angles and the over, crossing his body and making those throws are like textbook. It's just like he can do things with his body that others can't. And I had heard that his mentor is Tom Brady. Talks to him. He does all the stretches. He does stretches for a quarterback. He's not trying to build his body like a Greek god that is a running back or a receiver and has like a killer physique or whatever. He's doing stretches for like an hour to get his body in position and be able to contort and make those moves and throws in tight windows and do those sort of things. So he's working out on all of that. And Rodgers is, his mentor. I mean, you could say what you have to say about Rodgers, but he's a damn good quarterback. It just so happens that he plays for the team that we hate the most, and we have no one else to blame but ourselves for not beating that team. So hopefully him or whoever comes in can right the ship and win, because I'm going to tell you what, that's what it's going to take from everybody that I talk to, even co-hosts that we've got. The only cure for this Justin Fields Blues is for this quarterback to come in and start winning some serious ball games that matter. And I get it. I just looked at this right here, this Facebook user. Look at this, Brandon. It makes perfect sense. I get why people are frustrated. I'm frustrated because when Fields came in and he was top 10, I was like, okay, Ohio State top 10, let's do it, And then the coaching, they're like, all right, this guy, this guy, we're going to get these guys. And okay. And well, maybe this top 10 quarterback is going to make these guys better. Clearly we don't have the guy that throws the ball and puts the zip on it that's going to make, these plays just that much better. And it didn't work out. They tried to sell us a bill of goods that it just was like snake charming, like they knew that we were on a budget and we were trying to get rid of that dead cap and load up. And it's a 5-year, 6-year plan, whatever, right, Brandon? But somebody just said right here, just wish Justin JF1 had the support that the new rookie is getting. I mean, I couldn't agree more. He was put in the worst situation, worst scenario possible. I mean, it just worked out that way. And I'll say it again, and it holds true. Every quarterback that gets drafted in the top 10 is going to the top 10, the bottom 10 teams in the NFL. They are not winning. Their team sucks. Everything is falling apart. They've probably got cap issues, whatever. It just does not happen the way that it's happening right now. So, you know what? This is a good situation for Chicago. I mean, it's really good right now. So I'm really excited to see what's going to happen. And let's see what else we got here for comments. Caleb is not the answer. Okay, we can't say that. And I wouldn't even say that. I don't know a whole lot about Drake May, but I can't say that. He hasn't stepped on the field. I'm just repeating stuff that I've heard, from on other podcasts, Pat the Designer. Like, seriously, ESP. You cannot say that until the kid steps on the field and plays, right, Brandon? You cannot say that somebody is not going to be the answer. We don't know that, right? Do we?
Yeah, I think I've been seeing a lot of this. It's strange to me that, Justin Fields, like you said, he was drafted into a bad situation. There's a lot of blame to place on a lot of separate things on why Justin Fields didn't really meet the expectations he had. But the reality is, no matter who's at fault, the lack of development was still there. I mean, he was still an undeveloped quarterback going into his 4th season. You can blame receivers, offensive lines, coaches. You can blame Fields himself. But the reality is it doesn't change. He was still an undeveloped player. And after 3 years of watching Justin Fields, it seems like people get angry if you have any kind of assessment or opinion on him, even just his performance in general. But those same people are willing to write off Caleb Williams before he's ever played a snap. So it's like, it's
Yeah.
strange to me that we can't analyze this guy after like a 3-year body of work. But this
Mm.
guy we can call a bust when he hasn't even touched the football field yet. And it just feels like I said, Brandon, Justin Fields had a lot of love here in Chicago. It's
Oh
gonna
yeah.
be hard. It's gonna be hard for people to move on. I understand it. Like I do
Absolutely.
wish Justin Fields success, but get excited. Move forward. It's a new day. You know what I mean? Ryan Poles is gonna do what he thinks is best for his team. Get excited. If it's Caleb Williams, get excited. If it's whoever, I see a lot of Daniels. I've been seeing a lot of Bo Nix lately, which is I'm not. That's he's kind of climbing at least the fan boards right now, but I still think he's pretty much where he was, at the end of the college season. He's still falls right about where he did in mock drafts. So I don't think anybody's seen anything from his pro day or from his combine that really impressed anyone. I don't think anybody's made any different assessment of him than they had when the season ended.
Well, and I like when we talked to Curtis Conway and he was on here. Shout out to Curtis, top 5 Bear out of top 100 of 104 years. He came on and he was talking about how there's only one camera that he's interested in, that field of view from the quarterback position. When you're watching the television like we are, you only see the field for what it is. You don't see everything. So you cannot tell me that you know what's going on out there. You might see in certain angles, you will see a good portion. But for him, what he's saying as a quarterback, he was an All-American quarterback. He switched over to a receiver, but damn good quarterback at the time. And he talks to people that are still, in the building that do all of the, that play quarterback, coach quarterback, all that. He's saying that you have to look at that tape, not a highlight reel, not ESPN, not freaking YouTube, the actual tape from that specific location. And that is something that Poles in his team, not just him, it takes the whole team. Because if we actually thought that Poles is doing all of this by himself, you're freaking crazy, because there's a lot of freaking work, brother. So, looking at this tape, he's going to have to make the decision at that point. Are you going to be a fan of a player, or are you going to be a fan of the team? Because at the end of the day, we're the fan of the flag that's behind me, the hat's on me, and the flag that's behind you, the Chicago Bears. And we've seen a lot of bad, well, not bad. We've seen mid. We've seen mid quarterbacks, and the fight back and forth between these quarterbacks. But this isn't a fight between mid quarterbacks. This is a pretty good. We're in a really good spot, and I'm excited about it. So let's, like you said, man, let's temper our temper and let's get excited about what's going on in the building, because who can ever say, except for I would give the Chiefs, when Patrick Mahomes came in, bro, I would give him the tie, because that Andy Reid's going to Andy Reid. He's going to find ways to scheme and game plan and just make amazing things happen with his style of coaching and play and all of that. So I think, potentially, he walked into a situation just a little bit better. But if you look at this, top 5 defense, number 1, top 10 tight end, great running backs, a running back that can catch out of the backfield, because I think you stated that, I'm pretty sure it was you. If not, it was another smart co-host that I've got. Yeah, he said that when you're a rookie, you want to check down to that running back. A lot of those darts, I forgot what the percentage was. I think it was in the 20s or 30s, but those balls go. So what you want is to have that check down to actually be able to catch the freaking ball. So we went out and got that with Swift, so that was good, so I see a lot of positive things. We went out and got a tight end that potentially, you talk to Charger fans and people that know this guy, even guys that play fantasy football, they're like, hey, dude, this guy is a bona fide solid 15 average yard, 16 average yard receiver, catcher. He's fast. He can run routes. He's basically like a wide receiver, but as a tight end, I mean, say, God forbid, Cole goes out for a little bit, pulls a hammy, something out 2-3 weeks, tweaks his ankle, whatever. This guy can come in and play at that level for a while till he gets back, or they can go ahead and run tandem like Waldron likes to do, 2 wide receiver, 3 wide receiver, 12 sets, all that stuff. That could really open up a lot of things. And we just didn't have that, lifestyle last year. It was very vanilla. It was very basic. And we had a Luke Getsy that just really was just doing a lot of screenplays. And I just don't think that's going to happen a lot this year, Brandon. You know what I mean?
Yeah, from what I've seen from Shane Waldron through his tenure, is that it seems like he tries to really develop an offense around players' skill sets as opposed to just trying to fit players into his scheme. And I would agree with you. I kind of felt throughout the entire free agency that the moves they were making were implying they were going to draft a rookie quarterback. Like you said, you get a DeAndre Swift who's got 40 plus receptions every season.
Yeah.
You get a Gerald Everett, big body target. I know quarterbacks love the center of the field. They like to throw in the middle of the field. I think they're a little less comfortable throwing outside the numbers. But then you also just got, like you said, 2 number 1 wide receivers, guys who are both consistently open. And you got a bunch of yak on this team. Gerald Everett was second on his team in yards after the catch. He's a tight end. Keenan Allen and DJ Moore both led their respective squads in yards after the catch. So, I mean, they really have just done a phenomenal job at putting together a system that might be easiest for a rookie quarterback to grow, which I think, we talked about Fields, what Fields walked into when he was drafted. I think this is the first time I can honestly say as a Bears fan, at least in the last decade, that a rookie will be coming into a really, really well-planned offense. It seems like I'm sure Waldron came in, kind of told Poles what he intends on doing, and Poles went out and got the pieces for him. That's what it feels like. It feels like there's a plan in place, and it feels like they know what they want, and they're going to stick to what they're going to do. And I don't think, at least the last couple of times Trubisky, Fields, the last couple of times they've drafted a quarterback, I don't really think they had a plan in place. I think they just kind of went with the flow, and I don't think that works in this league.
No, it sure doesn't. Hey, well, thank you everybody that's joining, and click that like button and subscribe to our show and to get all of our content. If you feel we can hang with the big boys and you like our content, you want to hang and spend some time with us, all you got to do is click that like button and subscribe to our shows. Be a friend, tell everybody about Chicago Sports Podcast, Monsters of the Madhouse. We're going to bring it to you. We're just a couple guys that, we know a little bit about football. We've played football. Obviously I was a lineman, an offensive lineman. It's very easy to tell. The fact that my head barely fits behind this flag is just will let you know what size of a man that I am, and the fact that I can barely get my head in this freaking camera is another. But, I basically, guys tell me all the time, I'm not one of those, keyboard warriors that, dazzle you with stats and whatnot. I'm a guy that you want to sit back and, pop the top and, kick back some suds with and talk some Bears football. And that's basically what we are, man. We're just having fun. We know we don't know shit, and we're just having a good time talking to you guys. And we're taking your comments, have any questions, whatever, we're just here to talk about it. And we do have a lot of really cool celebrities, a lot of cool Chicago sports celebrities that come in, and they make us look good from time to time. So, and we do a lot of live events and stuff at sports bars and Soldier Field, and it's really cool. It's really special. We do have a really cool question. Do we have a center in mind? We do have a center already. We just signed one the other day from the Rams, who took every snap or gave every snap to Stafford, and his name was Coleman Shelton. So he sounds like a really good player, and quite honestly, I think he'll probably get the starting position. And also, can't forget that we picked up that Ryan, that center from Buffalo, too. So I'm sure those two will be fighting for that spot, but I'm pretty sure it'll go to Coleman. And that's not to say that we won't go out and get a guy like Powers, but as of right now, we actually have a lot of flexibility because, Ryan did his due diligence in the free agency, and I don't think it's over with yet, boys. I think, when he, the Fields trade went through, now we don't have that 5 to 6 million on our cap. So now we have 5 to 6 million to spend on top of what we already had. So we're looking at around 22, 27-ish mil. And that is also putting away that 15, 16 mil for our, well, it might be a little less because as of right now, we only have 4 draft picks, but I think that's going to change. But next year, I was just told that we have 9 draft picks and we have 138 million. That's without the market, the market being set and the TV contracts coming in and all that. If that money comes in and it's higher, then it'll be higher. But at the minimum, according to, Spot Track, we are going to have 138 million next year available. That's a lot of dough, especially when you're going to have 9 draft picks and 2 of them are second round picks. So that's pretty spectacular, ain't it, Brandon?
Yeah, it's kind of night and day from this year to next. I do think Ryan Poles has intentions of gaining more draft capital before April. Or maybe during the draft in itself. I think he's probably looking at taking that 9th overall pick and trading back and getting some more draft picks, because let's be honest, the Bears have found most of their success in drafts in the 2nd round, 3rd round, more than they have in the 1st round. And I think we can kind of all assume we know what they're doing with that 1st overall pick. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Poles trades that 9th pick back. It's, if you trade out of the 1st round for a top 10 pick, you could probably get, I'd say, maybe a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and maybe a next year pick to like 2025 3rd or something too. Maybe 3 or 4 picks. If he remains in the 1st round, if they trade that 9th back and you remain in the 1st round, you could probably get a latter 1st round and a 2nd and a 3rd or something. But I know.
Yeah, I like that. That's good.
Poles is big on building through the draft. And I want to say some regards to what we were saying earlier about adding the weapons. I think a lot of people there's a misperception of the quarterback position in the NFL today. This build around him thing, I hear a lot. Build around the guy. I heard a lot. Build around Justin Fields. And I don't know that the quarterback is supposed to be kind of the multiplier. You don't add talent around a quarterback to make the quarterback better. I think the quarterback is supposed to be the guy that makes less talented players better. It seems to be that's how it's worked in all the systems with all the Hall of Fame, Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes and guys like these. You never saw teams like those spending megabucks on wide receivers and tight ends and running backs. Those guys got what they could at a bargain, and they trusted in their players like Mahomes and Brady. And I'm not comparing anybody who's in this draft to Mahomes or Brady, but I think that is the way that you kind of view the quarterback in the NFL today, is he should be lifting players around him.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, you look at Jordan Love, he's not one of those Hall of Fame quarterbacks you just spoke about, but Christian Watson, he was a little bit higher of a draft pick compared to what's that other receiver? He's a later pick, I think 4th round or something, but he ended up being Dobbs. Yeah, Dobbs. Thanks, bro. Appreciate you. He had a better year. He was obviously more healthy, and they had a lot of repetition lead to retention, and that really worked out for him. I don't know if it actually ended up being a better, receiver than Watson, but for all intents and purposes, Watson is supposed to be the leader, but it didn't work out that way. My point is they weren't even in the 1st, 2nd, or I don't even think they were 3rd round draft picks. I think they were like 4th and 5th. They might even been 3rd, but for sure they weren't in the top 2. They weren't a 1st rounder or a 2nd rounder. So point is that they did great work over there. Houston, I mean, honestly, if you're not an AFC South fan, they're not even on your radar. And whatever happened over there this year, they don't have any, front runner, receivers that just dazzled you. Like when DeAndre left, I pretty much took that team off the map, and I'm like, it's going to be a minute, but to your point, you get a rookie quarterback in there throwing to a rookie receiver. And, I mean, I don't know who that guy was, but towards the end of the season, I found out. I'm like, whoa, this is something pretty
Yep.
cool over there. So he didn't have no Hall of Fame, 6-time Pro Bowl Keenan Allen over there or freaking DJ Moore. So our guy's walking into something pretty darn special, Brandon. I think we really need to be grateful and cherish and just really sit and marinate and enjoy this, thing that's happening right now and start to count all the wins that Poles has been doing and not let like a shadow of gloom like take over of all of the wonderful things that's been happening to build this team of 50 plus guys that takes to build a team. It's not just one guy that makes a team, it's the entire team, and so that's something that shouldn't be overlooked. It's very important to understand that it takes a whole team to make this happen. And I really feel like he's doing his due diligence and making this team building from the inside out and just really doing a really great job, man. I'm so excited to see what happens next. And I do have something to ask you. With that being said, is there anybody out there that tickles your fancy? Maybe Clowney or something that you wouldn't mind taking like a 1-year flyer on just to see, because I think he had 9.5 sacks last year. So you put him on the other side of Sweat, they could cook, man. It'd be a really good thing over there. Maybe, some more interior linemen for offensive line. Maybe a left tackle. I think Tyrone Smith from the Cowboys, he's still available. Not sure, his health or whatever, but if he checks out medical, maybe take a flyer, see depending on how much it is, if that's worth kicking the tires on, or defensive line. Is there anybody out there with a little bit of wiggle room and spending money that you'd like to go out and potentially go try to kick the tires on and you'd be happy with taking a 1-year, 2-year flyer on? Or do you want to just sit back and wait for the draft and kind of see what happens after that and then maybe see if those guys are still available later on? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, the three names that are still out in free agency that I would love to see the Bears at least just meet with,
Okay.
if they're not fully committed to signing, is
Yeah.
Jadeveon Clowney. I wouldn't mind seeing, given, he was such a high pick just a few years ago, still a young player. I wouldn't mind seeing Chase Young get a 1-year prove-it deal.
Okay.
And then Tyler Boyd. It's surprising. I'm very surprised Tyler Boyd's still out there. I'm surprised not more teams have at least even met with him, because he was a phenomenal number 3 receiver on that Bengals core, and the Bears are looking for a number 3 receiver. And it says,
Yeah.
based on who they visit with over the next couple weeks, it's going to kind of imply to me what they intend on doing in the draft, because they still have positions of need at edge. They still have, I'd say, another wide receiver, a third wide receiver, probably center, and defensive tackle. I think are all in, maybe left tackle. I don't know how they feel about Braxton Jones. I think they like him, but I'm sure they think they could do better. But at the edge position, if you don't see a couple of visits with guys like Clowney or Chase Young or whoever's remaining out there, I gotta believe that the Bears intend on going after an edge in the draft.
Yeah, I do think so too. I think an edge is a very important position that you don't want to neglect. I do think that potentially, like you said, if you get a Clowney or I don't know who else is out there, maybe Connor. If you go out and go get another guy like that, a 1-year, 2-year rental, you might be able to push this thing into next year, and I'd be okay with that, because like you said, or we said earlier, that there's 9 picks available to next year, and you're not going to be able to facilitate and get every need met in a long term type deal. You know what I'm saying, Brandon? Some of these guys might not even be in the building next year when we, reshuffle the deck and see what we got and keep, calibrating everything and changing it up, and whatever. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens. But yeah, I definitely would like to go out. There's some great edge, and I heard that there's some great edge deep in the draft. offensive linemen, great, deep in the draft. I'm also wondering, Brandon, if we do keep our 2 top 10 draft picks, those are day one starters potentially. If it does work out, hypothetically speaking, we could get 2 top 10 draft picks, right? And then go ahead and force multiply our third and fourth draft picks and kick those down and then get a couple more draft picks out of that. So now you went from 4 to 6. I mean, obviously it's fluff later on, and those guys might even be not even be starters, but they still, camp bodies, whatever, make the roster, maybe even, hopefully at least be on the practice squad or something. You got to have those guys, the COVID extra guys, the 70, whatever it is now, all of that. And, it's a lot, they've got to figure out and process a lot, but it'd be interesting to see if polls might look at it that way too. And just I don't know, it's interesting. I can't figure this guy out. I can't figure him out, Brandon. I'm glad I'm not sitting on the other side of him playing cards, because he would
yes.
take all that money.
Yeah, seriously, poker face. No, like I said, Poles has done a really good job at keeping things in house. I mean, there's a couple of times
Yeah.
last year where I was expecting to read some reports, especially in regards to the 2 coaches that were forced to resign because of whatever it was they were doing. We still don't know. You know what I mean? He does a good job of really not letting them be. I mean, he's always leaving you guessing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think, drafting a rookie quarterback, I didn't expect Ryan Poles to break the bank during free agency. I didn't expect him to go all in on this season. That's why I felt they were going to move Fields and draft a rookie quarterback, because I think if they were going to retain Fields, they would have been signing those Daniil Hunters, those Christian Wilkins. So I think you're right. I think you'll probably see most of the acquisitions for the rest of this offseason made strictly through the draft. And I think maybe in the 2025 free agency is when you really see Poles hit the market to fill the holes he has on the roster.
Yeah, I'm going to start paying a lot more attention to that, man. I'll tell you what, I'm starting to get excited about all this stuff, especially when we've actually got some good draft picks going, and a guy that can actually draft. So it's like it's worth actually paying attention and looking at. You know what I'm saying, Brandon? One guy is saying something pretty interesting. Oh, Cheryl reported Blackhawks win over Shaka this evening, 5-2. My daughter was there. She sent me a picture that she showed the green ice and stuff. So I was all excited about that for
Yeah, so I think they scored. I think they scored like 4 goals in the third period.
Oh, really?
Like a tremendous comeback or something.
That's amazing. Antonio Young says playoff or bust. Bottom line, you know what? I'm with you, man. I could see totally where you see that. Our trajectory, our defense looks phenomenal. Our team's looking good. Top 10 defense, great special teams. Offense is taking shape. We just went out and got a number 1 wide receiver, another good running back, another tight end. Why not? So Greg B. Weakest link as offensive starter is Scott. Weakest link on defense is Edge Walker and DL Dexter. Dexter.
An interesting take. Dexter came on really strong at the end of last. I agree with the
Yeah,
Walker
the
thing.
guy he just lost a bunch of weight, and I had Tommy Harris on the show, and he was talking about his fundamentals and the way he uses his hands and his technique and whatever. And he says that's a spark plug. That is your future 3 technique, and he wouldn't even worry about us even looking at another 3 technique. He says what you have in the building. I mean, that's from his his eyesight before he tore his leg off the bone and all that crazy stuff. He was a perennial Pro Bowler, great guy. We had probably since the best tackle that I've seen since freaking Mongo. But dude, seriously, I think Dexter's is definitely good, and he's only going to get better. Came from a situation, right over there in Florida where it was read and react, whatever. But once they freaking took the handcuffs off him and says attack, dude, guy's a freaking monster, man.
Well, yeah, and I think was it Washington? Is that his name? The guy from the Bills they hired to be the defensive coordinator.
Yeah, Washington. Yep.
He's got a lot of prowess for developing defensive linemen. That's kind of his thing. That's kind of the thing he's most affiliated with, is getting the best out of young guys on the line. But I also see that weakest offensive starter is Scott. I don't believe Tyler Scott's going to be a starter on the Bears offense. I would still say the center position, even with the the kind of bargain signings they've made. I'd still call the center position the weakest position on their starting offense. But I don't think Tyler Scott's not going to be in the starting roster because you've got Moore and Allen.
That's fair. I think that's fair. I also think that like the bumps and the bruises and all that kind of stuff go away. People play hurt, or sometimes hurts are reported as injuries, even though we all play hurt and we all play injured. But when you start to win cures all. So when you start winning, those injuries and those hurts are not reported. And when those balls are thrown to you for whatever reason, you find a way to catch it because you are believing in your offensive coordinator. You're believing in the man that throws you the ball. You're believing in the game plan. You're like, hey, we can win these freaking games. And you're not sidetracked. And I just think it's just when we start hitting in rhythm and everything works itself out. I think there might be guys like Scott that, not saying Scott is, but I'm saying a guy like Scott that will probably woo your socks off, that just like, whoa, what's this, this guy, so
Yeah,
it,
I firmly believe Tyler Scott's still a good player. I think it seems like, I mean, especially in this city, Chicago Bears fans, really quick to move on from rookies.
really quick.
Like it's like Javon Dexter and Tyler Scott are really young players, and they were drafted pretty high. I
Yeah.
don't think that Ryan Poles or Met Eberflus is even ready to move on from either one of those guys. I think they have really high hopes for Javon Dexter. And Tyler Scott was the number one receiver on a team that went undefeated in college. I mean, he was a big part of the reason I think Desmond Ritter even got drafted. So I expect to still see big things out of Tyler Scott. I know he dropped a couple of
Was that
balls.
Cincinnati? Was
Yeah,
that Cincinnati? Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, man. Great job there breaking that down. Appreciate you. Agreed, but we need an O line. Yeah, we need an O line. It is getting better from a stooge who all I do, like, people are like, did you see that play? I'm like, I'm still trying to dissect this O line right now. I'm still marinating in the A gap, the B gap, and the C gap. I'm looking over here and looking over there, and I'm missing, and I'm getting better. I'm starting to look a little bit more, but I really like looking at our offensive line, especially when you see a guy like freaking Wright on the right side. I noticed that part of the game he was blocking with one freaking hand, and then he took the one hand and he freaking just pancaked the guy with one hand. I'm like, I've never seen that done before. Like, dude, you just got posterized. That would be like the poster, like, that I would hang up and show you. Like, if you ever talk smack, I would send that to you, DM that to you, and I'd be like, boom, be like, oh, okay, well, you own me, So I think we got some good guys, man. If that freaking Jenkins can stay freaking healthy, man,
yeah,
we got
that's a
two
that's
guys
a
right
big
there,
concern.
bro.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and you know what?
yeah,
Last year when Nate Davis was injured, they
yeah.
moved Jenkins to the right side, and when Jenkins and Darnell Wright were next to each other, I don't think there was a better right side of a line in football. I mean, those guys were unmovable. The Bears were getting 5, 6 carries every time they rushed the ball that way. I know
Yeah.
Nate Davis can't play on the left side, so that's where Jenkins is going to start. But God forbid, if the line is really struggling and you need to solidify at least one side of it, I would move Jenkins over to right.
Yeah. Yeah. So Allen is Greg is saying that Allen is a slot receiver. I don't remember him. I mean, he bounced around,
They
but
Moore and Allen are both have the ability to play inside and out, but I don't. It's irrelevant. I mean, with what they have on their roster right now, there's no way Scott starts on the outside over either one of those guys. I just don't see that happening.
especially with the jump ball factor, I mean, you really don't like, the money ball 50-50. I don't
I
know.
don't.
We'll see. We'll
I
see,
don't see
Greg.
Scott.
I appreciate Greg. I do appreciate. We appreciate
Yeah.
your feedback, man. It's much appreciated, and we're not trying to, belittle you or whatever. And if we get something wrong, you can give it. You can give it to us. You can give it to us hard, bro.
Call
'Cause
us
we
out.
got, yeah, we got thick skin over here. Don't worry about it. Okay, I've heard it all. So, you can call me many things. Just don't call me late for dinner. That's all I ask. But yeah, so Man, you know what? Just a great time to be alive, man. I'm so excited. The last time I remember being this giddy about receivers is when we had Alshon and Brandon. I was like, that was a pretty special time. And I'm starting to really get excited about this tandem with, DJ Moore and Allen. You know what I mean? Somebody tried to get into it with me, I think earlier this morning, and asking me who's gonna if Caleb makes his way here, who's going to get number 13? I'm like, if it was me and I was the seasoned veteran, I'd be like, listen, kid, you're going to be here longer. You hold on to 13. 13 meant more to me in San Diego than it does here in Chicago. You're going to lead the team.
Well,
You're going to be throwing darts to me. So here, have it, But at the same point in time, if I'm Caleb and I'm the rookie coming in and I'm looking at this veteran that's going to catch all my balls and make me look really good, I mean, they might have to just decide on the number, just paper, rock, scissors, shoot. I don't know.
I had the same conversation with a friend of mine last night, and he said something that made me laugh. Something would probably get a lot of Bears fans heated. He said he thinks Caleb Williams will take number 1. Now that he's going first overall in the drafts. Now that Fields is on the move, the numbers available. He thinks Caleb would take number 1 and allow Allen to retain the number 13. I would imagine Allen will probably wear the number 13. I'd imagine Caleb doesn't have a problem. He's coming. Allen's been wearing the number for however many years he has. Caleb's never put on an NFL jersey, so
no. And I did do a little bit of research. I'm like looking at Caleb back, when he played in Washington in high school, and he wore number 13. And then, of course, I already knew in Oklahoma that he wore 13.
Yeah.
And then when he got to USC, he wore 13 as well. So I was just like, we'll see what happens. At the very least, that is the least of any of their concerns. That'll get all worked out,
Yeah.
So I've never heard of anybody, exchanging blows because of if that's what you're, thinking, or
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to get that.
I'm sure they'll work it out.
Yeah. So, outside of that, as far as business goes, we've got, like I said, we're going to find out probably tomorrow, the next day, what time we're going to have Eric Kramer come on. And then, like I said, Saturday, Sunday, we were talking Saturday, but now I just remember we got Will Purdue at 3:00 at Bridges Scoreboard at Griffith, Indiana. He's going to be doing a podcast with me and Dano again at 3:00. And then he's going to be doing an autograph signing and all that. So that'll be entertaining
very cool.
and exciting. Be a good time. Yeah. So finally get to have an interview with the Chicago Bull. It's very hard to get a hold of those guys, man.
Yeah.
Very hard to get a hold of.
There's so few of them compared to an NFL team,
Exactly. That's a very good point. I never even thought of. I don't know why I didn't freaking think of that. I'm like, I think I did get a hold of one, but he's like, talk to my agent, and then come to find out his agent was just like his friend that is never available to talk to. So I just gave up. I'm like,
diversion.
I'm just like, dude, these Bears are a whole lot easier and are more accommodating. And the Cubs too, the older Cubs, they've been very cool. Fergie Jenkins, Bobby Denier, and Jody Davis. They've been super cool and chill with me and all of that. So we've done some live remotes together. Starting to get into some socks. I want to get some socks on board here for you Sox fans. So we're always cooking, man. How far are you away from here, Brandon?
From where?
Chicago.
Oh, I'm about an hour northwest.
Really?
Yeah.
So you still in Illinois then?
Yeah. I'm
okay.
I'm maybe even a little less than an hour.
Okay. So if we have something big that pops up, we might actually be able to cook in person, man, and do a live thing together. We have a draft party coming up at Bridges Scoreboard. We did a Super Bowl last year, so there's some events that are very fun, and I'm always looking for our local, out of our co-host. It's hard to keep up, but to my knowledge, it was only a couple for mainly Dano at this point. Quite a few of them are one. What do you call it? Cleat lives in Iowa, and Cooper lives in Tennessee. So, and then Leroy, he lives in Wisconsin, like 4 or 5 hours away. So he actually came in one night and did a podcast with me. And well, he wasn't on the podcast, but he just sat and hung out. And we
Yeah,
had
man,
some
if you
chicken wings.
you'll have me, I'd be honored, man. Absolutely.
That,
I'm not
oh,
too far away.
dude. Yeah, so for sure. That's exciting, and it's good to know that you're closer than I thought. I don't know why I thought you were further away. Huh. So, anyways, is there anything you want to talk about? Anything you want to bring up? Anything that's Chicago sports related that's on your radar before we go?
No, man, I think we kind of banged it all out. I'm just excited for this draft, man. Probably more than I've ever been.
Yeah, me too. Hey, you know what? It's going to get to the point where we're going to get really antsy as to whether we'd like to see a generational talent offensive lineman that grow with our quarterback, or do we want to go ahead and get a top 10 wide receiver to grow with our quarterback? And,
Oh, I did have
you
a
know,
question for you.
yeah.
Do you think the Bears get the Hall of Fame game?
You know, we've got the edge. We've got the edge of Hall of Famers now. I think we've got
Yeah,
like 38 or something, right? It's very
and I
possible.
think
I know.
3 inductees this year, right?
Yeah, no. So when Misty was there, one of my co-hosts, she was there. It was Julius Peppers, but that's actually more of like a Carolina,
Yeah.
yeah, Panther. Uh, Hester, obviously Mongo, and who else am I thinking? What was like? Was
Was it
it was it was it
was it 4?
Peppers?
Was
Was
it
it
4 or just
Peppers?
3? Yeah.
Maybe I was counting Peppers as one of the three. So yeah. So
Yeah.
Turbo Duran is upset we're not looking at the chat. Hello, do you guys pay attention to your chat? It looks like I'm over here talking to the wall. What do you have? What do you got? What do you got, buddy? We'll talk to you. Hello, Bears fans. Quick question for the fellas on the stream. Who do you as your quarterback?
I'm sure he meant to say, who do you want as your quarterback?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, who do you want as your quarterback, bro?
I mean, the Bears are going to do their due diligence. They're going to meet with all these guys. They're going to do all the homework they need to do. And I personally feel Caleb is on a whole other tier. I've discussed with you before. I see Caleb Williams as the only NFL ready quarterback in the draft. So you've lost Justin Fields. It's pretty obvious at this point that whoever's drafted to the Bears is going to be their quarterback week 1. I think Jaden Daniels still needs to put some weight on, and I think it wouldn't hurt him. He's a little raw. It wouldn't hurt him to sit behind the bench, even though he is one of the older quarterbacks in the draft. And I'm probably going to catch a lot of grief for saying this too, but the same goes to me for me. Is same goes for Drake May. I think Drake May is a guy that I would sit on a bench, and I think the Patriots signed Jacoby Brissett as kind of a bridge guy. And I think whether it be Daniels or May, if we draft Caleb, whether it be Daniels or May that falls to the Patriots, I do think they intend on leaving that player on the bench.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm excited to see what the man that was in the building when Patrick Mahomes was drafted decides, because now he gets to pick, and he's got a pretty good track record, a lot better than I do. Because
Yeah, you know what?
I got excited. I've got it excited. I'm not going to lie. I've got it excited at quite a few guys, and they've broke my heart. So I don't really like. I'm a USC fan. I'm from California. I live now here in Chicago. I've lived here longer since I've been. I served my time in the military, the Middle East. I come back in my last
Thanks for your
duty
service,
station.
bro.
Oh, no problem. Yeah. So my last duty station was Forest Park, Illinois. And then I see all these boys out here that got nice homes, trucks, doing well with their families. And, they're all union guys. And I'm like, that's what I got to do. So I'm like, boom. So I'm out here, but, like I said, man, I'm excited. I can't wait to see what he decides. And I think we have, like you said earlier, there's quite a few fellas that guys are high on. So any one of those guys, but I really think Poles is going to get it right. I think he's got the right guys in the
Yeah.
room. I think we'll do well. I hope we'll do well. We can't afford to not do well. I think it's very important that we stick this,
Well, and everybody says in polls we trust, and then you go through all the fan banner online and stuff, which I try to avoid, but it seems like a lot of guys only trust polls when polls does what they want them to do. That's not the way
Yeah.
that works,
Yeah.
Give
No,
the guy
you're
cut the
right.
guy some slack. I know, he's gonna make mistakes. He already has, but he was a rookie GM 2 years ago, so just have some faith. I do think Poles probably has a pretty good idea of who he wants it to be quarterback for the Chicago Bears. Like you
Mhm.
said, he was ankle deep in the scouting and drafting of Patrick Mahomes. So let the guy cook, as they say.
Yeah, exactly. I like Yada says Joe Aldis Sasquatch at left tackle.
That guy
That's funny.
is
I
that
like
guy
that.
is large, man.
Yada says Emery Moorhead. I had Emery Moorhead on the we did a remote we did a Zoom podcast with him, StreamYard, and
Moorhead?
it was yeah, Emery Moorhead. It was fun. It was a good time. Yeah, good dude. Turbo says I say Caleb's to you guys are right about that. Caleb is the next Patrick Mahomes. He has the same skill set. Good luck in the draft.
Thanks, Turbo.
Thanks, Turbo. Yada says Steve Fuller. What are we just naming off freaking Bears players? What are we doing? What's it's just this guy's just like tilting them back. I'm like, hey man, we love these names. They're great names. Keep throwing them out, dude. Like
Oh, look
taking
at
us
this.
down memory lane.
I've been hearing a lot. I see a lot of after the Fields move. I saw a lot of people start posting Tyson Bagent starting quarterback stuff. And
I saw that today. I was like,
uh,
no, he's not, dude. No, no, no.
again, good story, man. Just same as Fields. I really like the kid, but I'm going to tell you
Yeah.
now, Nano CBD. I don't think that is the likely scenario for the Bears' future.
Williams is the Hall Badgent training in Los Angeles. He gained 25 pounds. He looks good. Team Badgent. Oh, I see it. You already read it. Yada. Facts. Caleb is the only one. Okay. JJ McCarthy isn't ready at all. I'll tell you what. It sounds like he's got a glaring he's got a ringing endorsement from his old coach Harbaugh, because he was just like, this
Yeah,
guy is the best in the draft,
he's flying up draft boards. And you know what? I'm always skeptical when that happens after a combine, seeing a guy go up, almost an entire round in projection. But I've also had a couple of fans suggest the Bears are getting ready because they brought in Everett, they brought in Keenan Allen, they brought in I forget the wide receiver coach's name, it escapes me, but saying the Bears they're getting ready to trade for Herbert so that Harbaugh can get his guy McCarthy at 5, and I don't think that's the case.
He keeps saying you guys like is he a Bears fan? The way he's talking, I don't know if he's a Bears fan or not, but I love the input. Great job, Durant. You guys like your head coach. I think he's a good head coach. He better get it right. If not, he's out the door. I think the main thing with him is like the whole unit cohesion. Like it sure does seem like the locker room is behind him, and of course the defense is too. Like he's really won them over. He potentially got a top 10 defense, and he's the one that's calling the shots. I do think that, like you said earlier, Williams is in the building now. At some point, he's going to let that loose so he can be more of an overall, head coach instead of just, kind of like, okay, I'm the defensive coordinator. I'm focused on that. And then on the back end, like I'm obviously, since I'm so focused on that, I can't do my overall due diligence of being a head coach that's well-rounded and looks and oversees everything, So, yeah.
I mean, Eberflus, obviously the Bears wanted continuity at the head coach position. It did kind of upset me that they That's one area I don't really feel like Poles did his due diligence. He didn't really look at any other option before he determined that's who's coming back. But I'm going to be honest. I think the most important person on that staff this coming year is going to be Shane Waldron. Eberflus is going to run his
Yeah.
defense. I think the most important person on that coaching staff this upcoming season is the guy who's about to get the first overall quarterback. You know what I mean?
Oh, dude, I agree with you, brother. And I don't know how much longer we're gonna have Shane if he freaking nails it. Are you
Yeah.
kidding me?
Oh,
It
I
might be
know.
a
That's a
one and done
concern you
in
got to have.
Chicago. He
Yeah.
might get the keys to be a head coach right away because these offensive coordinators nowadays, if they stick the landing, it's over with. It's
Yes.
sayonara.
It's the risk. It's the risk of having a defensive head coach. Is anytime one of your offensive coordinators succeeds, you're probably gonna have to move on next year.
Yeah, correct. So your first lieutenant, the guy that's behind whoever that is, assistant offensive coordinator, he better be doing his due diligence and picking Shane's brain because we're going to need that next year, especially if whatever reason, I don't know what happened with freaking what do you call it, Russell, Russell just became unraveled. And whatever reason, Shane was his guy. And when he didn't have his guy, he fell apart, So I don't know how much that has to do with it, or he just had a bad time in Denver, or it was just, the perfect storm. But I do know that you do want to have your favorite coach in the building. It does make a difference. It does help out, and they will, if they earn your respect and you earn their respect, they can call you out and they can see things that you turn a blind eye to that can correct your vision and you can recalibrate yourself and do better, So
And
we'll see.
The Bears signed a pretty decorated assistant offensive coordinator. He's a passing game coordinator, I believe. I forget the guy's name. He came from Carolina.
Was it Carolina or Tennessee?
I think he came from
No.
Carolina.
That was an assistant offensive line coach. Yeah, from Tennessee. Yeah, you're right. Carolina.
Yeah, I think he took over play calling once Frank Reich was fired. I don't know if he actually took over as interim coach, but I think he was an offensive coordinator. I think he was an option at offensive coordinator for a lot of teams in the NFL. I think he might have done some interviews as an offensive coordinator, and the Bears just happened to nab him up as their assistant. I forget his name.
Shout out to Yada. Shout out to Duran, man. I love these guys. They are busy in the chat, man. They're cooking. Good job, guys.
Thanks, fellas.
Yeah, you guys need to have your own show, but don't forget to don't neglect our show. Make sure you show up. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe too. That goes a long ways, man. If you want us to battle in the trenches with the 4-letter network, ESPN, and all the big shots and stuff, and you want to hear us, break it real to you and have these magical moments together, all you got to do is hit that like and subscribe button. Be a friend, tell everybody about Chicago Sports Podcast. You can see guys like Brandon and myself, Trax in here, and the other decorated guys that we have on our cast that they're going to be dropping like it's hot. Monday, tomorrow, we're going to have a whole nother show. And then Tuesday, I think Cleet Campbell is going to start up a new show. But once football season starts, we're going to have to shift Cleet over and then have Michael run fantasy football because he's all dialed in on the fantasy stuff. So we got a lot of good stuff coming on. Wednesdays and Thursday nights, we're going to have shows. We have shows. Everything's going to be at 8:30 p.m. Central. That seems to be a really good time for everybody to get unwind and unpack and get dialed in so we can create some really good content for you guys. But, let's just go over a couple more chats and then we'll get out of here. Yada says Michigan and Harbaugh beat Alabama, and plus Alabama had Justin Fields 0.5 at quarterback. Are you ready? Are you guys from Chicago or no? Yes, we are. Yada, Russell fell completely off the map. He wanted them to let him cook. Okay. Duran says he's going to subscribe to our channel. He likes us. Thanks, bro. Thanks for helping us out. Said he subscribed. That's what's out. Shout out. Got another subscriber out there.
Thank you,
all
gentlemen.
right, guys. Hey, we're going to close it up. Thanks for spending the evening with us. And like I said, man, it's okay to get, have a little drink, have a little smoke, as long as it's not meth or, crack or fentanyl, You know, so you just get over it, okay, guys. Just get over it, and we'll just remember that we all wear, you know, this with honor, and we're all Bears fans, and we're united, you know. So
Get excited.
Chi Town up and bear down, guys.